Sitecore Sessions Demo Fridays, Episode 1, an Intro to Order Cloud's React Admin Head Start.
Earlier this week, I blogged about the fact that Perficient just received its Order Cloud Specialization. So we have the certifications and the experience in commerce that Sitecore has recognized for us to deliver Order Cloud solutions for customers. Sitecore learning documentation and what you needed to do to prepare for the certification was really focused on understanding the model around Order Cloud, understanding the APIs, and taking the course, you become very familiar with the API console. And definitely recommend doing it, but what it doesn't do a great job of really making you understand what it's like to actually build sites using Order Cloud. Although definitely take a look at the API console, and I mean it's a very flexible framework. I mean everything you can do. This is like Postman on steroids. Gives you everything you need to test and see exactly how to call the APIs to do what you want, and I'm very impressed by the flexibility. But when you start to look for sample applications to get started, there's a number of things out there. The traditional one is actually the Head Start solution in the Order Cloud API GitHub. And this Head Start gives you a good understanding of what it takes to build an Order Cloud solution, but it's all built on Angular. And I've had a hard enough time coming up to speed coming from an MVC Sitecore background into React and Next.js. I don't want to have to go deep in Angular to really understand it. Thankfully, Sitecore has been working on a number of different React solutions, although to date, I think this Angular implementation is probably the most complete. It has, and this really helps me understand kind of what it is to think about from an Order Cloud solution perspective. They have an admin portal for sellers. They have a buyer app, which is really like the commerce site that your visitors will go log into and buy stuff. And then they also have an example of middleware, which thankfully is written in .NET. I probably need to go back and look at that implementation. I'm sure that could be used in a lot of different ways. But if you continue to search and look through some of the Sitecore and 451's GitHubs, you'll find a couple of other applications. You'll find this Head Start Next.js, which I think is very much a work in progress. I have not installed this yet. That's probably next on my list. But the one that is they actually also have a React admin site, which is actually in the Sitecore GitHub. And this is actually, I don't think it's completely done, but it is pretty baked and gives you a good user interface for admins to go in and kind of manage it. And I found that really understanding the APIs and the data model and then looking at this admin app, it kind of connects a lot of dots, and you can really see how some of this flexibility can be used. I had a little bit of trouble setting things up. I mean, the first thing I did was created a new marketplace, and you can see I actually have two of them called Play Summit Demo, because first I created one thinking I was going to connect it to it, and then I ran one of the scripts which actually created a new marketplace. So let me show you just some of the requirements around working locally. So I kind of started top to bottom, and I created one. I created a client API ID, and I ran it, and then I wanted some data in it. So then I ran this, which it took me a while to figure out how to run this properly, because I wasn't sure if this was give me a new username that I'm going to go create so that I can log in, or something else. But this actually turned out to be the actual username and password for your portal account that you log into Order Cloud with. I tried creating new accounts and using their username and password. It would not work. The only one it would work for is my actual login into Order Cloud. And then I put the marketplace name, and then it actually went and created a new marketplace here. Matter of fact, if I go to the API console, right, it's actually in a different sandbox, so that was an easy way to do it. But like, you can change your marketplace here And one of the first things I wanted to go do is go look at like products, like are there products in it, and we can do like a get on the products, and you can see all the product details are there. So after setting this up and doing an npm run dev, which I did end up having to upgrade my node instance to go do, the React admin actually looks really cool. Matter of fact, if I refresh it a few times, I think every time I get a different cool picture. I haven't looked at the implementation of this, but there are definitely some cool photos in there. And then I actually changed the password using the API because what was having issues initially. So it should work now. So you get this cool dashboard. I'm a little confused. I think I need to dig into this a little bit because, yeah, we got money, we got reports. So I don't know if this is actually working because there are clearly not this many products. There are clearly not this many promotions. And like if I go to orders, there's nothing there. I can create orders, and I don't know if that reflects in the dashboard. So I will have to look to see if this is just a sample that I would then have to wire up, or maybe that's on the roadmap to go do. The one thing it does do a good job is giving us a list of products, and we can drill into the details. As a matter of fact, I like the grid view better than that. It's just easier to see some of these things. And these are from the Play Summit demo, so we can view the products. The really nice thing about this is you really get into the details of the model, and you see all the fields they have and really how it works. You learn about price schedules from an API perspective, but being able to kind of see this here, do additional ones. I mean, there's fulfillment with inventory tracking, so it really crystallizes how all those APIs are used and what a UI could look like for this, because it's one thing to read about the model and understand it and to think on how it's presented. Relationship between products and catalogs and catalog categories, right? And the ability to find specs and then generate variants on those specs. So that was another cool thing that I thought, like you can define specs for like size, like small, medium, and large, and color, blue, green, yellow, and then you can generate it and just basically multiplies it to create different variants for all the specs that you've defined. And there are other types of specs as well, but we're getting into the weeds on some of that stuff. Having your media assets. I did notice these media assets are all actually coming from a Content Hub instance where they're stored. They're actually not part of the download. And then facets just are good for searching. I think usually they get tied to some of your customizations if you want to like facet on one of your XP fields, and I think that's what these things are. But this was interesting, the fact that you would put the product URL as a facet so that you know how to link to a product. I think that's probably a common thing, and it didn't even dawn on me until I saw this. Promotions I thought was pretty interesting. Like when you go create a promotion, and the expression stuff I thought was pretty intuitive, but like it was stuff that I thought you needed to learn. But they've started building like an expression builder into here, and I thought this was really cool. And some of these have their own like little pop-ups that allow you to go define it without having to learn the language for it. So some really cool stuff here. There's a lot to dig into. I did want to briefly show you some of the code. So I do have Visual Studio Code open. And even though it's called the React Admin, it is a Next.js application. And it's actually implemented with PageRouter. So if you are familiar with that should be pretty clear. But unlike a Sitecore SDK JSS app, you're not going to see a lot of components. You're going to see really all the data stuff being done at the page level and passed down to the components. You're not going to see components defining their own static props. That is a JSS thing. So it may be a little different than what you're used to, but if you're more used to Next.js, it's going to be pretty straightforward. But you can kind of drill into, like, here's your product detail page, right? and you have product detail components, and they're being passed in as a prop, and right. I mean, there's a ton to look at in here. I mean, the component tree is pretty detailed. Like here, it's product detail. Lots of state variables. And I'm sure some of these components and things like that, especially around product, can be reused in outside the admin application. So that'll be interesting as well. All right, so I'm just starting to dig in. I thought it was worthwhile because I didn't see a lot of reviews of this React admin app anywhere. And what I hope to do with these sessions is to kind of share what I've learned over the week as I dig into Order Cloud. Hopefully this was helpful. Thanks.